Dear students, let us begin with the second part of the lesson on climate change and its implications for India, in which we will discuss about India's energy security scenario, disparities in energy consumption and shift in India's energy production. Let us discuss about India's energy security scenario. To meet future demand, the Indian government set up a group on India's Hydrocarbon Vision 2025 in February 1999. The recommendations put forth by the group are 100% exploration coverage of Indian sedimentary basins by 2025, exploration in frontier and deep water areas, offering of attractive fiscal terms, foreign investment in exploration of oil and gas resources, self-sufficiency in petroleum refining, storage of oil in various locations. India's economy has been growing since the economic reforms were undertaken. If it has to grow at the rate of 8% as per projection, there should be an uninterruptible supply of oil. Most of its oil comes from the Middle East. Instability in the region may make India vulnerable. Any disruption in the oil supplies could put India's economy in danger. India's most important source of energy is coal. Though India produces a large amount of coal, it has become the sixth largest importer of coal. More than half of India's energy needs and about 70% of its electricity generation are met by coal. With more than 90,000 million metric tons of proven coal reserves, the country could be self-sufficient for more than a century. India's coal consumption increased from 240.032 million tons in 2007 to 415.943 million tons in December 2017 and 452.221 million tons in December 2018. 68% of India's carbon dioxide emissions are from coal. India largely depends on coal, which contributes to the emission of greenhouse gases. To reduce its dependency on coal, India is shifting towards renewable energy resources. Apart from contributing to climate change, coal reserves are expected to last for 45 years. India has realized the fact that it needs to reorient its energy resources. The Indian government is planning to reduce emissions from 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 level. India's initiatives include bringing reduction in energy imports, focus on biofuels, clean coal technologies, the use of electric vehicles and renewable energy goal of 175 gigawatts. India has increased its installed capacity of solar power. India's installed capacity was 5,526 megawatts in the fiscal year 2017, 9,363 megawatts in 2018 and 22.1 gigawatts in the fiscal year 2019. Further, in 2018, around 8 gigawatts was installed capacity of biomass. Let us discuss about disparities in energy consumption. In most of the industrialized countries, there is relatively little disparity in energy consumption between urban and rural areas or between different parts of the country. However, this is not the case in developing countries, particularly in India. The rural people in India still use cycles or animals for transportation and consume only a small amount of electricity due to its high cost or lack of access. The table shows the consumption of coal, oil and electricity by different rural and urban income groups and their contribution to carbon emissions. It is to be noted that 50% of rural people in 1990 emitted only 54 kilograms of carbon per person per year, whereas urban people emitted 101 kilograms of carbon per year. The consumption of coal, oil and electricity by different rural and urban income groups and their contribution to carbon emissions. It is to be noted that 50% of rural people in 1990 emitted only 54 kilograms of carbon per person per year, whereas urban people emitted 101 kilograms of carbon per year. The richest 10% of urban people emitted 12 times as much as 656 kilograms carbon per person per year. It is essential for India to address and minimize the disparity in energy consumption. It cannot eradicate poverty unless it takes initiatives to provide access to electricity to every rural Indian. Let us discuss about shift in India's energy production. India has been relying on hydropower for years to reduce its dependency on fossil fuels. 1/4 of the country's electricity comes from hydropower plants, and new dams will go online in the coming years, especially along the Brahmaputra river. The Himalayan glaciers that feed India's major rivers are essential for a steady supply of hydropower. With climate change and shrinking glaciers of the most important source for India's rivers, the country risks of experiencing even more blackouts during dry seasons. Nuclear generation is attracting countries to increase the diversity of their energy supplies, improve energy security, and provide a low carbon alternative to fossil fuels. India is presently able to produce about 3% of nuclear energy. In 2002, the installed electricity capacity was about 139 gigawatts. During 2002 to 2003, electricity production was about 639 terawatt hours, where 67% came from coal-based stations, 20% from oil and gas, 10% from hydro, and 3% from nuclear. India's requirements for energy by 2052 indicate that the total installed capacity will have to be about 1350 gigawatts and the total generation about 8000 terawatt hours. Of this, the coal and hydrocarbon contributions would have gone down to 47 and 16% respectively, and hydro to 8%. The nuclear component is required to go up to 26%. Realizing its energy needs, India signed an agreement with the United States on peaceful nuclear energy cooperation. Through this agreement, India is expected to produce about 20,000 megawatts by 2020 and double this by 2030. India's main focus on nuclear energy is not only to meet demands but also to reduce its greenhouse emissions. I hope you understood about India's energy security scenario, disparities in energy consumption, and shift in India's energy production. We will continue to discuss about the India's shifting energy production, India's initiative for bilateral and multilateral energy cooperation, and India's concern over GHG's emissions in the next video. Thank you.